We salute you. The government salutes you. We hope that the integrity and the commitment and the professionalism of members of the fire service, the bodily correctional institution, and the police force remains at the highest level. We will do our best to improve your conditions of work and to make life more bearable for you. Rest assured that you are important, you're very important, and maintain your dignity and your integrity. I thank you very much.
Today's contract signing marks the continuation of the Northern Pipeline project. For this significant national investment, we are finally rehabilitating the severely corroded transmission line. We must embrace life. So protecting the lifeblood of St. Lucia is exactly why we are gathered here this morning. For decades, the arteries of our national water network have been under immense pressure. When we look at the Northern Pipeline, we are looking at infrastructure that was installed over 40 years ago, laid down in an incredibly aggressive environment. The data speaks for itself. 43 to 50% thereabout of our water is non-revenue. That is nearly half of the water we painstakingly produce that is bleeding into the ground through these aging pipes before it ever reaches a single tap.
For the last 12 months, the government has invested $1.2 million in Wasco every month. Something not known by many people. And incidentally, these funds have come from the CIP program. And I can possibly say it's the first time that any government has paid up its Wasco's bills. In fact, we've paid these bills sometimes in advance. So I want to say to Wasco, we are watching you, we're keeping a close eye on you, because as I said before, in fire analysis, we are the ones who rule.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media, and to those of you joining us live on Facebook in St. Lucia and the diaspora. I am Melissa Paul, Press Secretary to the Prime Minister, and I thank you for joining us here today. Our first presenter is Honorable Kenson Kazibe, who is the Minister for Education, Youth Development, Sports, and Digital Transformation, with a few updates in his ministries.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Good morning, everybody. Of course, a lot of updates for you, especially in education, sports, and of course, the constituency of Grosley. I'll begin with sport. I think we'll get the heartbreak out of the way. St. Lucia Kings having a sort of up and down season so far, but on the positive end of the spectrum, very, very, very impressed with the progress that we are seeing. Aki Mogis A very good knock last night. I think it was 60 odd. We all wanted him to bat through the innings, and we know that if he did, we would have won that match last night. But we came in short. On the previous occasion, another close encounter with Antigua, but we came out victorious. So we've been seeing a season that has been marked by inconsistency so far from our St. Lucia Kings. But I must say that I'm very impressed with the show of support from St. Lucians. I will put on record that in my 5 years, this is the fewest requests I've received for complimentary tickets. It means that we're heading in the right direction, that people are realizing that they need to just show their support for sport and get to the facilities, the token amount being paid to enter, and the excitement that you actually receive, especially in the Johnson Charles stands, is well worth the admission. So I just want to say hats off to St. Lucia so far. In terms of the crowd support, there really is a buzz in terms of sports development in this nation, and I mean testament to what we see in our crowds so far. We still have 2 other games to go in St. Lucia, one on Wednesday and one on Friday. The team is expected to be strengthened by the individual international players that just left the 100 series, including Tim Seifert. And so we're excited about moving forward with the St. Lucia Kings. Akimo Geese doing very well, and we're certainly hoping to see more from him and the other St. Lucians playing in this year's tournament. In education, we have so much ongoing in education. Very soon, we're expecting to have a very nice ceremony for signaling the first ever payment of summer payment to cleaners, cooks, and other ancillary staff at the Ministry of Education, from the Fraternity of Education, from this government, testament to all aspects of education being touched and developed in this nation. Last week we saw the dissemination of the $500 book bursary to schools from the districts, and so many students benefit from that, and I don't think it could be spoken enough about in terms of this government's enthusiasm towards education, the drive, the thrust towards education, and so we see a lot of students receiving that sort of assistance. On the constituency levels, all throughout the constituencies, the parliamentary reps have been providing, some support to the needy parents with especially multiple kids. I can say in Grusley, we have started providing the $200 support to parents, towards a book, towards some books, towards, some school shirts, uniforms, a bag, or a pair of shoes for those students. And this government has been very, very serious about ensuring that as many students are given the tools that they need to continue to develop in this nation. The Ministry of Education, we have received all laptops. All our laptops are currently being programmed as we speak, and in the first week of school we will be disseminating laptops to every single Form 1 student within the first week of school. And so we are very serious about ensuring that all the programs are set and that we have laptops of a certain standard to ensure that our students continue to compete with the rest of the world. We also have been dealing with a lot of the situations with our schools. The repairs at all schools are ongoing and ongoing in earnest, and we're expecting that before school reopens, at least 99% of the work would be complete to ensure that students are a little more comfortable. We have been investing in new furniture for our schools. St. Mary's College will be receiving some new furniture as well, and we're certainly hoping that there's more comfort at all of our secondary schools. In terms of the Entrepot Secondary School, I have been updated by the contractor on the wing of that school. The work continues in earnest. We have been having some challenges with the weather, and I've always said that when you're speaking of construction in the tropics, when you say something is going to be delivered by September, you should say, weather permitting, it will be delivered by September. But most of the works are ongoing, and we're certainly hoping that very soon that we will have the handing over of that particular block to the principal staff of the Entrepot Secondary School. In terms of Grosley, on the weekend, I toured most of the constituency. You would see cleanups on the main highway Castries-Grosley Highway, a lot of the silting ongoing in the constituency, and we're certainly hoping that we can appeal to individuals to just not litter. I mean, if you drive down, we have so many tourists in the constituency from Martinique, from Mercury Beach. Some of them attended the cricket, and we would have had a cleanup about a week ago, and in this week the sheer number of bottles, plastic wraps, plastic plates, plastic cups that we had to clean up, it really is something that we need to appeal to all in the constituency. In fact, most of the people driving in the constituency may not be from the constituency, but all of St. Lucia, to not dispose of your garbage outside of your vehicle, and let's just ensure that we keep our highways a little bit cleaner. We also had the opening of the Deidre Mathre Multipurpose Court in the constituency of Grosley, the community of Grand Riviere. It is, I'm told, one of the first facilities in St. Lucia to be named after a woman, and we do intend to recognize a lot more of our women, not just the stands or a particular part of a facility, but an entire facility, especially when they've done well. Deidre was truly an athlete in every sense of the word, former national netballer, goal shoot. She was also a very, very competent high jumper and field event specialist at the Leoness Comprehensive Secondary School. She passed away suddenly in 2023. On hand, we had her parents, we had well-wishers from the community. The entire netball fraternity was present, and we did have a netball arama in her honor, and I think this event went very well. We also had in Vieux-Fort a drag racing event. We have been focusing the drifting event. We have been focusing on alternative sports in St. Lucia. As a matter of fact, St. Lucia continues to be the only country in the region with an alternative sports desk, an alternative sports officer, and a designated individual responsible for individuals that may not just be interested in running and jumping and kicking a ball, but ensuring that they are given that attention. I will say that most of the regional events that I have attended as Minister of Sport, the other countries are asking exactly how St. Lucia went on to implement such a department, and so they are interested in doing it, and we definitely have the template here that we continue to hone in on and make better as time goes by. I would entertain any questions now. There's certainly a lot going on in education. There's certainly a lot going on in sport, and of course, the constituency of Grosley.
Good morning, Minister Karim Nelson, St. Lucia Times. My question is just about the payment to the ancillary staff and also the temporary teachers. We see it almost like a year-by-year announcement. Any intention or any conversations yet to make that a permanent fixture every August moving forward?
I'm very surprised. This is something that this government is not going to turn back on. I think the St. Lucia Labour Party has been a government that has been consistent in ensuring that we provide this level of, some form of security of tenure to as many people as possible. We believe that at the end of the day, when individuals work well, they work hard, that we will compensate them the best we can based on the economic activities in the country. So I do not see a St. Lucia Labour Party not continuing such an endeavor. The only way I can see that happening is if you have an uncaring government at some point in St. Lucia saying that these individuals do not deserve to be paid in the month of August. But the Philip JPL-led organization that I serve, we certainly believe that these individuals deserve to be paid for their vacation time during the month of August, and that is something that is going to continue as long as this government remains in office. In addition to that, we have been the government that has said that we are moving away from temporary employment of as many people as we can afford as a government and as a people and as the economy would allow us to. And so I see us moving further and further into establishing that on behalf of our people. If you look at who we are touching individuals that generally have not met a cook or a cleaner or any of the security guards that do not have children. For some reason, they have a family that from time immemorial they've been struggling in the month of August to provide that level of support going into September. And it's a critical month, especially the first month of getting into a new form, a new grade, that we see as very important for the students to settle in as quickly as possible. So paying these individuals would definitely allow them to do a lot more in terms of providing for the children to get back to school. In addition to that, you would see the implementation of a STEP program in the month of July, August. Again, the whole thrust behind the STEP program is not just, it's a beautification program that also allows the individuals that are not necessarily employed to get some form of relief to provide, again, some level of support to young children. So St. Lucia Labour Party has been a government that has been serious about education and serious about providing opportunities to level the playing field so that as many of what we consider disenfranchised young people can be on an equal playing field with the rest of the world.
Okay, good morning. Sienna from Choice. We at Choice TV, we spoke with some, booksellers and the bookstores in the Castries. They said that one of the latest, trends in consumption for, back to school is that the parents came to buy books much earlier than would have been the case before. So I wanted to know if there's any chance what trend in education or perhaps the economy that this would point to.
We've put, the Ministry of Education, we put a lot of pressure on a lot of the stakeholders in our education system to get things done earlier. School was not closed when we identified almost all our contractors for the summer works program so that we do not have a situation where students get into the classroom and work is still going on. If this happens this year, rest assured, next year we will have a process of identifying which schools that faltered along those lines, which contractors faltered along those lines, and these individuals will not be given another opportunity to allow this to happen, simply because education is something that needs to be done in a level of peace and tranquility for our students. And the Ministry of Education believes in that, and under my tenureship, I've made it very, very clear that everything has to be done early. And so you would have seen that even before school was closed, in terms of the laptops, in terms of the procurement of those laptops, we did not hesitate to go along and do it as soon as possible so that within the first week that our students can get those laptops. And then we've also done that very same pressure with suppliers, with the principals, the staff, to get information, get things out there early, so that when you get back into the end of August, nearly everybody is ready for school. Even at my constituency, I've been putting pressure on everybody. Though we have over 600 individuals applying for some back-to-school support, to get checks out this week. And so those checks would be pretty much to augment all what this government has already done for people in the inner communities, to ensure that they are more comfortable when September hits. Even in terms of the conversation with the principals, the staff, we have ensured that the pressure is placed early so that when September comes, that we are in a better position. And this is the practice that we are going to have moving forward, just to ensure that we, ensure that our education system is more effective, more efficient, and that we signal to our students, our children, that we're really serious about them being serious about their education as well.
Okay. So would any grants and these kinds of things have been disbursed within or before the month of June?
Not before the month of June, but certainly in July, even in terms of our scholarships, even in terms of what we are doing with Monroe University, the UE economic costs, we are ahead in terms of where we would have been previously in terms of making pronouncements, letting people know that they should be ready by this time to get out into their learning institution. And it's a concerted effort to make sure that we are more effective. That, I just find a lot of the times, I've been a sort of career public servant. A lot of people don't know this, but before I even became parliamentary rep, I spent 15 years already in the public service. And so I saw a lot of what we call dilly-dallying and dragging of the feet, and I'm very conscious of that. And so I definitely transfer that need for urgency to the rest of the staff, and I think we are yielding the results right now.
Good morning, Minister. So just one question from me. I believe it was either a few months ago, I know CXC released a statement stating that they would be setting out an adjustment with no longer having SBAs for certain subjects. Now, moving forward with the new school year, especially speaking with a lot of parents and students, stating that how SBAs is something that's more beneficial to them instead of being completely academic. So I just want to know, in your opinion as Minister of Education, what do you think of this new tactic that CXC is moving forward with, and do you agree with this, or do you think that this is something that SBA should still be implemented?
Yeah, I do not agree with it, and that's asking me as the Minister of Education. There's a lot to be derived from students doing their own research. There's a lot to be derived from individuals bringing information together and being analytical, looking at different points of views, looking at different theories, different methods, and coming to their own sort of conclusion in an intellectually sound manner of expression. I think there is a lot that I benefited from, and most people benefited from, having that level of analysis that that allows our young people to be critical thinkers. We've moved away, I personally believe, from critical thinking a little bit too much in our education system, and I believe that is something that we see even in discourse, ordinary discourse on social media, just interactions on the playing field, just interactions with basic individuals, and some of the most trivial topics, there's just not much analysis other than what somebody just said, or repeating something that perhaps an individual who is of a particular mindset and political persuasion would just have said and been regurgitated. And so for me, SBAs having some of those components of our education system is very important. And for me, the technocrats, they are in tune. They are aware that we do need to obviously do analysis from time to time and see how we can augment efforts to make education, the education system, more efficient, more effective. But I personally believe that the SBA is one of the ways for sure that we can do this. I will be having the different conversations as to what level of change is being done as it pertains to that particular aspect of our education system, but it is something that I personally, if you ask me personally, believe should be part of our education system. I believe should not be taken away.
So, but the CXC in the statement, they cited AI concerns. So do you think that maybe the complete removal of the SBA is like an overcorrection, or do you think, how do you think we should be navigating that?
That's a very good word to use, whether it's an overcorrection. I think time will tell. I think at the end of the day, education is so dynamic. Before I became Minister of Education, I think what I had before me in terms of sports, the dynamism of sports was something that, would have been easily measured in about a week or two, whether or not a particular scientific measure used for performance, whether or not a training method yields results. Those things are more instantaneous in nature than you have AI coming into the midst. You have a body overseeing the dynamics of AI and trying to move in the times with AI and trying to make adjustments to how education operates within a realm of artificial intelligence, and then trying to come in with measures that, for all intents and purposes, CXC is not trying to make our education system less efficient and not trying to make our education system not in par with the world that we are moving in terms of technology. But I don't know that there's necessarily an overcorrection. I just think that there are adjustments being made, and the time in education would allow for us to have more of a definitive answer as to whether or not it works. But if you ask me, as a Minister of Education, if I would be one who would just say, do away with SBAs and that sort of thing, I would say let's have more of a measured approach to seeing how it works with the AI, rather than there being an assumption that we have to necessarily do away with it. But I'm one of those who would say very, very quickly to my PS, DPS, and to the individuals in the exam unit, let's be cautious. Let's take a breath. Let's see how this works. I don't believe that education is necessarily an experiment, but I believe it is a strategic way of getting things done better as the minds of young people get adjusted to what's happening in the world and the use of technology.
Okay, so very quick question to add some more perspective to this. Would you support a bid to expand study skills education in secondary schools especially, and in different disciplines as well, or subjects?
Absolutely. This is the government that has allowed for us to have some roving mathematic teachers, because we've seen that, for instance, in math, that we have this sort of gap that we need to fill in. So we've employed some roving mathematics teachers to deal with the actual teachers, somewhat of a train-the-trainer program where they go into the schools, see what the teachers are doing, and make sure that everybody is on par with what we need right now in terms of the teaching of mathematics and the results that we're looking for. And it's a similar thing in terms of Spanish, in terms of IT. I believe at the end of the day, we can never ever get to a point where whatever we are doing in education will suffice. We need to always reskill, and pass it on to the students. So I believe that in schools, any additional measure we can use to ensure that our students learn even quicker and better, and they can actually use it in the real world, is something that we have to actually do.
Mr. Minister, the first generation scholarships, could you tell me a little bit more about how it works? It is, in fact, an actualization of the Prime Minister's long-standing promise to work towards a university student in every household. How does that work?
Okay, so Monroe, they've been very, very gracious and generous to this government, and we are going to be announcing 75 new students at the Monroe University this coming week. An application has to be first placed to Monroe University. You have to be accepted first and foremost to the University to Monroe University, which means that they have the academic standards. It might be 5 CXCs, it might be a SAFA Lewis certificate, it might be CAPE, it might be some of what you need as a basic entrant. And after you have that acceptance letter from Monroe University, you then go to the Department of Education, Human Resource Development at the Ministry of Education, and that is where you actually put in the application for first generation scholarship. So if you only apply to Monroe, you get accepted to Monroe, and you do not go to that extra step of applying for the first generation scholarship, you'll only be accepted from Monroe, and you therefore have to pay your way through Monroe. But once part of getting the first generation scholarship is an acceptance letter from Monroe. That is when the Ministry of Education, the Human Resource Development Department, that is when they now will do their research of the household, the individual, where they're from, to ascertain whether or not that individual is indeed the only individual pursuing a degree program in that household. And that is what actually some people say that the first generation scholarship takes a little bit longer, and you would understand why. You have to go for that extra nugget of ensuring that a sister, a brother, a beau-père, a parent, and an individual not applying for that same scholarship at that same time. We have had instances in the history of St. Lucia where something slips through the crack. This is St. Lucia. Sometimes something slips through the crack, but as a minister, I always put pressure on the ministry and the department to do all the research necessary to ensure that we are identifying indeed first generation individuals. After that analysis is done, we will go an extra nugget in terms of the government priority list. Because as I explained last week, if at the end of the day, from the 70, we had over 400 applicants. If in the applications, 300 of them were for only business management, and we realized that from our analysis, we have over 5,000 individuals with a business management degree, then we would know based on what we need in this country that we need like human services, social workers, psychologists. These are the individuals, forensic accountants and that sort of thing. These are the subjects that are on the priority list. We'll go through the applications now and prioritize who would actually receive that scholarship based on what we have and the need we have in this nation. So you would not find a lot of individuals necessarily from one particular area of study, but it will be spread out across to ensure that what we are providing to the work world are individuals that are capable of actually obtaining a job. So that's the process in a nutshell. The ministry has gone through that process, and we will be announcing these 75 individuals in the coming weeks. I will say we made a request for individuals to do an associate's degree in sports management. As you would be aware of, through the years, we've not had a number we've never reached the threshold of 20 individuals applying for an associate's degree in sports management. I was surprised when I came in, because I believe that we have a number of footballers that could benefit from having an associate's degree in that particular department. This year, we got a number of individuals who went to Monroe and applied for that program. We had more than 20, but only 11 of these individuals actually came to the ministry to apply for the scholarship to actually get the financial assistance towards that project. So it means that on some level we need to do more in terms of communicating to all and sundry, that you actually have to go and apply for Monroe and then come to the ministry to apply for the actual scholarship, the financing. But what we will do, we have requested that list of individuals from Monroe who have applied for that associate's degree, and we know that it is well beyond the 20 individuals that we actually need to fill the class, and we will be making a decision on these individual scholarships in the next week as well. So we will have a full set of individuals studying sports management in St. Lucia for the first time in our history.
Yeah, I just want to have one question about Grosley. Over the past years, we've seen a lot of capital investment happening in the Grosley constituency, from the Rodney Bay City Centre, Isla Resorts, and even tracking back the census, Grosley also had one of the largest population increases, almost about 20% in between the times the censuses were done. In creating the enabling environment for that volume of people on a daily basis, do you think we are too slow in developing some of the things to allow for, I don't know, better quality of business? So I'm talking about roadways, water security, because that place on a daily basis accommodates a lot of people.
That's a very good question. We have been too slow in terms of generations before us. I would say over, let's say, about 1997, the 1997 election, if you look at the results and you look at the population of Grosley, and you would see Mario Michel become a member of parliament for Grosley. I remember in 2001, it was already tabled that Grosley should be 2 seats, and that was in 2001. And then fast forward 2006 and 2011, the proposal was to split Grosley into 3 seats. Right now, we do know that, and I've been making this known to everybody, that I'm an MP for no less than 4 seats. If you look at the actual average, because we have a voting population of 26,000 people in Grosley, 26,000. This is while Dennery South voting population is 5,600. To put it in context, Grand Riviere alone, if you just take Grand Riviere as a community, we're talking about almost 5,400 people. So in effect, Dennery South only has 200 more people than a Grand Riviere. So the justification for Grosley being split in 4 is already in existence. The fact that it didn't happen generations ago answers your question, that it was indeed too slow. And even the information from the census, had that information from the census, let's just say from 2001, been implemented, we would have already seen that huge shift, the fastest shift in terms of mobility into a constituency in the entire OACS was indeed in Grosley. So when you dealt with Wasco and the main water line and all of that sort of stuff, if there was a system in place to take in that information and be proactive in dealing with what the dynamics were, then for sure we would not have had the situation that we have right now, with Monnier people calling me on a daily basis for weeks, And my heart goes out to Monye, my heart goes out to Deramo, and to all of those communities that still do not have running water in their pipes. That situation would have been dealt with a generation ago, or I would say 20 years ago. And of course, the other dynamics were there. Grozile was the constituency we saw the most development in terms of the entertainment sector, the most development in terms of the hotel sector. And these things have a huge impact on the infrastructure of the entire country. So the works ongoing right now in the raw water line, Phoebus plant, all of that information should have been done 20 years ago. So in all honesty, in terms of answering your question, yes, we are behind in terms of what has happened in Grozile, the movement towards Grozile. As we speak, somebody is looking for a place to rent in Grozile. That's a fact. As we speak. And so that information is going to be woefully inadequate in the next 4 years because there will be even more people living in there. But I'm proud that I'm part of a government and I have a prime minister who recognized that, and within the 5 years, you've seen an absolute concerted effort to deal with all aspects of the infrastructure leading up into Grozile. All aspects. The road network, the physical road network in terms of the water, in terms of electricity. This is the government that has tackled those issues head on. And so I believe that especially throughout this term, this lag that we see, I believe this is the Prime Minister and this is the government that's going to ensure that all the infrastructure that we catch up to what has happened in the constituency of Grozile. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We thank you very much for those updates, Honorable Kazime. We now invite you to join us for a break.
We salute you. The government salutes you. We hope that the integrity and the commitment and the professionalism of members of the fire service, the bodily correctional institution, and the police force remains at the highest level. We will do our best to improve your conditions of work and to make life more bearable for you. Rest assured that you are important, you're very important, and maintain your dignity and your integrity. I thank you very much.
By Peter, a court system Safini. Exa, c'est pour toute cette dossier. Kini, a case qui a pu être This courthouse was established especially to deal with the backlog of criminal cases in the court system. The court has already started operating and is already yielding results with over 30 cases being disposed so far.
I am informed that of the 138 or the 1,138 cases pending as of the 31st of March 2026, 587 of them, 51.6%, have been there for over 6 years. By any measure, this is unacceptable and justifies the saying that justice delayed is justice denied. The administrators of justice will have many reasons for this deficiency in our system. This mounting backlog of cases has been a pressing issue for my administration since assuming office in July 2021. This morning, I'm pleased to say that this long-standing issue is now being addressed following my administration's early declared intention and commitment to do so. So I'm very happy that we can sort this thing out. I'm very, very, very pleased. It's been the government's commitment to deal with the justice system. And I can tell you, we've made tremendous investment in citizen security in this country. Tremendous investment. What's happening at Borderley? Doing work at Borderley. Tremendous investment. And very soon, we're going to be begin the construction at the former George Charles Secondary School. We're going to be beginning the construction of young men who have issues with the law. Something which will be different from a prison, but we'll have where young men will be able to get some rehabilitation. That's going to be pronounced next month. And as I declare officially open this court, I want to remind you of the insightful words of the civil rights leader, Martin Luther King Jr. And he said, "True peace is not merely the absence of tension, it's the presence of justice." I thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and I am pleased to inform you that we have come to the end of this Monday's pre-cabinet press briefing. Tune in next Monday for another episode of government's pre-cabinet press briefing. Thank you very much.